In one of the most earthquake-prone cities on Earth, engineers built a 634-meter needle of steel and concrete on soft riverbank soil that should have made such a structure impossible. And to keep it standing through the violent shaking of magnitude 9 earthquakes, they turned to technology perfected 1,300 years ago in ancient wooden pagodas. This is Tokyo Skytree, the world's tallest freestanding tower. A 36,000-ton fortress against nature, and a building that was put to the ultimate test before it was even finished. Japan sits directly within the Pacific Ring of Fire, accounting for roughly 10% of all earthquakes worldwide. Tokyo alone experiences 60 to 70 noticeable earthquakes every single year. It's a city where the ground beneath your feet is never truly still, where buildings are designed not to resist earthquakes, but to survive them, and where a single catastrophic failure could kill thousands. The 1923 Great Kanto earthquake remains seared into Japan's national memory. Over 100,000 people died. Critical infrastructure was destroyed. The disaster transformed Japan into a world leader in earthquake-resistant technology, but it also imposed strict limits. In a city where the earth itself is the enemy, buildings simply cannot grow too tall. And yet by the early 2000s, Tokyo faced a problem that only height could solve. The old Tokyotower, completed in 1958, stood 333 meters tall. For decades, it broadcast television and radio signals across the Kanto region, serving over 30 million people. But Tokyo had changed. A forest of high-rise buildings had grown up around it, blocking its signals, creating dead zones across the metropolitan area. The city needed a new tower, a much taller tower. One that could rise above the urban canyon and restore complete broadcast coverage to one of the world's largest cities. The site chosen for this tower presented engineers with a nightmare scenario. The Sumida Ward location sat on the banks of the Sumida River, where the surface layer was composed of soft, unstable soil, the worst possible foundation conditions for a structure of this scale. The proposed tower would have a slender 9-to-1 height-to-width ratio, as proportionally thin as a chopstick standing on end. On firm bedrock, this would be challenging. On soft riverbank soil, in one of the most seismically active regions on Earth, it seemed impossible. But the stakes were too high to fail. This tower wouldn't just broadcast television. It would serve as Tokyo's quasi-disaster prevention center, housing emergency broadcasting infrastructure designed to warn citizens during the very earthquakes that threatened to destroy it. The system that alerts millions to take cover cannot collapse. The tower sits directly above a metro station and one of Tokyo's largest shopping centers, with millions of visitors passing through annually. Any structural failure would be catastrophic, not just for those inside, but for the emergency response of an entire metropolis. The solution began 50 meters underground. Engineers developed a revolutionary foundation system called the kanai pile. Rather than traditional piles driven straight down, they created steel-reinforced concrete wall piles arranged in petal-like clusters beneath each of the tower's 3 legs. These walls extend 50 meters deep, the equivalent of a 15-story building buried beneath the earth, reaching through the soft surface soil to grip the rigid ground below. But supporting the tower's weight was only half the problem. During an earthquake, a slender structure doesn't just shake side to side, it rocks. And when a 36,000-ton tower rocks, it tries to pull its foundations right out of the ground. To counter this, engineers added knuckle-shaped nodules along the pile surfaces, dramatically increasing friction. They tested the design with a full-scale pull-out test, reaching 40,000 kilonewtons of force. The piles held. Above ground, the tower's distinctive shape serves a critical engineering purpose. The base forms a triangle, with 68-meter sides providing maximum stability. As the structure rises, this triangular cross-section gradually morphs into a perfect circle by 350 meters. This transition isn't aesthetic, it's aerodynamic. The circular upper section reduces wind load at the heights where typhoon force gusts are strongest. The steel framework itself weighs 32,000 tons, comprised of 37,000 uniquely shaped steel frames. That's equivalent to 200 fully loaded Boeing 747 jumbo jets assembled into a single tower. The largest steel pipes measure 2.3 meters in diameter, so massive that each joint required 4 experienced welders working for 3 days to complete. And these pipes aren't ordinary steel. They're approximately twice as strong as standard structural steel, designed specifically for this application. But the true innovation lies at the tower's heart. And to understand it, you have to go back 1,300 years. Throughout Japan, ancient wooden pagodas have survived centuries of devastating earthquakes virtually unscathed. Records show that only 2 pagodas have ever collapsed from earthquakes in 1,400 years of Japanese history. For generations, no one fully understood why these wooden towers survived while stone buildings crumbled around them. The secret was the Shinbashira, a central pillar that runs through the pagoda's core, but is not rigidly connected to the outer structure. When an earthquake strikes, the pagoda's outer frame sways in one direction, while the central pillar sways in the opposite direction. The two movements counteract each other, canceling out the seismic energy and stabilizing the entire structure. It's a principle so effective that wooden towers built before Europe's medieval period still stand today. Tokyo Skytree became the first modern building to adapt this ancient principle at massive scale. At the tower's center stands a 375-meter steel-reinforced concrete cylinder, 8 meters in diameter, weighing 11,000 metric tons, as much as 7,300 Toyota Corollas suspended inside the tower's core. The bottom third of this column is rigidly fixed to the outer structure, but above 125 meters, the core is deliberately disconnected from the tower. It's connected only by oil dampers, essentially giant versions of the shock absorbers in your car, scaled up to handle a 40,000-ton building swaying in a magnitude 9 earthquake. During seismic events, the massive concrete core and the outer steel frame sway at different frequencies. The core acts as a giant pendulum, counteracting the tower's movement and absorbing the earthquake's energy. This system, named the Shinbashira Secret, or core column vibration control system, reduces lateral motion by up to 50% and cuts acceleration response during strong winds by 30%. It was the first time this type of damping system had ever been implemented anywhere in the world. If engineering like this fascinates you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the structures shaping our world. Construction began in July 2008 with nearly 585,000 workers contributing over 3 years and 8 months. The tower rose steadily through Tokyo's skyline, becoming Japan's tallest structure at 338 meters in March 2010, surpassing 500 meters by December of that year. Then came the ultimate test. On March 11, 2011, the magnitude 9 Great East Japan earthquake struck. It was one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded, triggering a tsunami that killed nearly 20,000 people and caused the Fukushima nuclear disaster. At that moment, Tokyo Skytree stood at 624 meters, just 10 meters short of completion. Construction director Shigeaki Tabuchi was working at the 350-meter observation deck level when the shaking began. He watched as 2 massive cranes mounted at 500 meters swayed through amplitudes of 4 to 6 meters, nearly 20 feet in each direction. The cranes did not fall. No workers were injured. The Shinbashira system performed exactly as designed, absorbing the seismic energy and protecting both the structure and the people inside. 1 week later, on March 18, 2011, workers affixed the lightning rod to the top of the tower, bringing it to its final height of 634 meters. The earthquake had delayed completion by only 2 months due to supply chain disruptions. The tower that was built to survive earthquakes had survived the earthquake of a generation before it was even finished. Today, Tokyo Skytree serves its intended purpose, broadcasting digital television and radio signals to over 30 million people across the Kanto region with complete coverage the old Tokyo Tower could no longer provide. Its observation decks have welcomed over 40 million visitors since opening in 2012, while the surrounding complex has drawn more than 300 million people, revitalizing the historic Sumida neighborhood. But its deeper legacy lies in what it proved. The Shinbashira technology pioneered here is now influencing earthquake-resistant design worldwide. A recent renovation in San Francisco used an 8 million pound pivoting concrete core inspired by the same ancient principles. In a city where the ground never stops moving, Japanese engineers looked 1,300 years into the past to find the secret to their 634-meter future. The ancient pagoda builders had no computers, no earthquake simulations, no modern materials. But they discovered a principle so fundamental that their wooden towers still stand after centuries of seismic assault. Tokyo. Skytree proves that true innovation isn't always about forgetting the past. Sometimes it's about finally understanding what our ancestors already knew. If this story made you think, hit the bell to get notified when we publish. And if you have thoughts or know of another mega project we should cover, drop a comment below. Would you trust a 634-meter tower built on earthquake technology from 1,300-year-old wooden pagodas? Thanks for watching.